Welcome back. You are watching The Core, and we are talking about our three arms of government: the judiciary, the legislative arm of government, and of course the executive. If you are at home and you want to join this conversation, you can do so through our social media handles: Twitter at Channels TV, at Drea Ahmed. Please use the hashtag #NGTheCore. We are also on Facebook on @Channels Forum. Before I open the conversation to the audience, I want to come back to you, Senator Sabi. You heard Mr. Clement Nwako there talking about the multiplicity of committees that have oversight responsibilities and how that can be quite a burden. In addition to that, of course, in recent times, we've also had prominent people like Professor Atahiru Jega and even Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala talk about the fact that members of the National Assembly, sometimes demand gratification for doing their job. And all this obviously puts doubts in people's minds about the way you carry out your oversight functions.
All right, thank you very much. First, let me say that the way the legislature works is such that the committee remains the engine room through which the work of the legislature is facilitated. And what I have seen from my personal experience is without the committees, some of this work and the speed at which you want them to happen will not happen.
People are talking about the numbers.
And so, yes, this is the reason why we're having the number, because people may see it as multiplicity, but then if you look at the enormous work that needs to be done, and if you see a particular committee trying to get down to some work, then you understand that, yes, if you don't have that kind of number, it may be difficult for you to even meet some of the objectives. Because the key issue is, at the committee level, you want to go down to details. You want to really have time to look at the issues and tease it out properly. Because if you bring large number of people, then you are not able to really get down to the issues. So for us, the committee remains the core engine room. And if you look at the numerous challenges we are having, then it behoves on us that, yes, we must have such number. Now, I'm also noting the point he has raised about the multiplicity of invitation. Now, let me say that when it comes to the issue of invitation, there is a season where you have more invitation, and this is during the budget time. And the Honorable Attorney General is here. I cannot remember the last time, maybe he was in the last 1 month, how many times he has been summoned. So the issue is, it's not as if summoning people to appear before the National Assembly is just for the fun of it. It is only when there are issues. Okay, and it behoves on us as public officers serving our people to know that at any time you can be called upon to do your work. I'm happy to know that the DIG said he left the IG working at home. We are here, we are working.
Okay, let me quickly bring in the Attorney General, because of course he oversees the ministry, and your ministry of course is, the National Assembly also has oversight responsibility over your ministry. In your experience, do you think they carry out their oversight functions according to the Constitution, the way it is supposed to be?
Well, in assessing or analyzing or coming to conclusion as to whether the oversight functions are being properly conducted by the National Assembly, I think the major consideration has to be situated within the context of the Constitution. Analyzing the provision of the Constitution, if you look at the provision of Section 4 of the Constitution alongside with the provision of Section 88 of the Constitution, I think the fundamental functions of the legislature, one is the lawmaking within the context and spirit of Section 4 of the Constitution, and then two, oversight. And the oversight functions that we are talking about is not open-ended, in all sincerity. If you are talking of oversight functions within the context of the workings of the ministries, departments, and agencies, the major consideration, the major responsibility of the National Assembly as it relates to oversight functions is the exposition, that is exposing corruption. That is the bottom line. So I cannot, in all sincerity, come to terms with the reality of declaration of a vote of no confidence against the IG, where to situate it within the context of the lawmaking responsibility of the National Assembly and within the context of exposing corruption. I think that is where we are missing the point, exceeding the bounds within the context of our respective responsibilities.
Okay, and specifically experience within your ministry in how they've carried out their duties?
Well, in my own case, for example, arising from a case, I was adjudged fraudulent by the National Assembly, and I think declaration that pronouncement is within the exclusive context of the judiciary. It is the judiciary that has the responsibility of analyzing the facts, assessing them, and then arriving at a logical conclusion as to whether indeed any fraud has been committed or not.
Okay,
Because
I wanted to go to the audience, but it's really important I ask you a question. Isn't this really part of, why we end up with institutions that we end up undermining institutions? You've got an Inspector General of Police that the National Assembly says, we don't believe he's up to the job. An Attorney General, a sitting Attorney General that the National Assembly says, well, you know what, we think he's committed fraud. And then now we have a Senate President that is being accused of having some sort of relationship with people who are suspected to be armed robbers, killing 30 people. And I'm suggesting that there's something we're doing that is allowing for people, important people in our government, to be subject to this sort of accusations that essentially belittle the institutions that are supposed to promote our democracy.
Well, first, before I go into your point, I'm not a lawyer. The Attorney General is the Senior Advocate of Nigeria. And he said, with respect to Section 88, what it talks about when he said expose corruption, essentially, I don't agree with that, because that section says expose corruption, inefficiency, or waste in the execution or administration of laws within its legislative competence and in the disbursement or administration of funds appropriated by it. So it is not just the issue of corruption itself. And when you say inefficiency, what is the definition of inefficiency? It has to do with both processes, actions and inactions, and the like.
Okay.
And so for me, the bottom line is, I'm happy he has said we should operate within the context of the law. That is true, and all of us have to respect that. Now, with respect to the last, the first question you raised, or the main question you raised, this is the reason why all of us are not happy. Because at any point, two wrongs never make a right, at any time. For me, as a legislature, first and foremost, my allegiance is to the Federal Republic of Nigeria